Many years ago, around 1820, blacks were assigned to this area as a reward for fighting with the British against the Americans in the War of 1812. And the British paid off soldiers and military people after the war was over with land. And when it came to the blacks, there was a question asked, what do we do with the blacks? And the quick response was, they're like any other citizen. We'll give them land on an equal basis as we would give whites, no question. And as a result of that, soldiers who fought for the British were allowed a land if they wanted to take it, up in Oro. The reason they picked Oro was that there was a black man here. He was likely a surveyor's helper with land established here. He was probably paid off when he surveyed inland, and he was doing very well. And they knew it down in muddy York or Toronto. And they said, well, let's send the blacks up there, and there'll be a man up there already established, and he'll help them. So they identified Oro as the location for a black settlement. But I think this was the very first settlement that was established for blacks on an equal basis with whites that the British Empire ever set up. And the settlement predated the beginning of the Underground Railroad. Some people think it was a terminus of the Underground Railroad, but the Oro Black settlement was well established before the Underground Railroad even got going. So the blacks, once they settled here, built out of, with their very bare hands almost, this church with an axe, felling the trees and building a log church. And the amazing thing is that the church is still here, now 160 years later, and it's quite historic. It's very old, built by blacks for blacks, and it still exists. And of course the church rung with wonderful praise and song. And today we heard it again, some authentic singing like it was back then.
I'm on my way to Canada, a far and distant land. The dire effect of slavery I can no longer stand. Don't come after me, old master. I'm going north to Canada, where everyone is free.
A greater freedom is waiting for us, I'm sure. So let us recognize it, and let us remember what went on there. Our purpose here, as we know, is to commemorate the crossing over from slavery in America to freedom in Canada.
I do, coming for to carry me home. Tell all my friends I'm coming to, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me.
Way back then. And that's why we're so proud of the Oro Black settlement, because it was a milestone, an important milestone in emancipation and in the dignity we offer blacks, as we should any person. It was a milestone, and it happened right here in Oro.
Our council, going back to the roots to the 1830s, realized that it was a working together that made it possible for for everyone to flourish and survive. Without the cultures working together, this place would not be the wonderful township it is right now. And back in your history and saying, hey, look what we've accomplished and look how far we've come.
Amen. Amen.
The oil settlement, I think as the crow flies, to use an old country term, would be about 70 miles from York or the city of Toronto. They would have come up the Yonge Street to Holland Landing and across Lake Simcoe by boat, landing on the north shore of Lake Simcoe and then trekking up to their allotted parcel of land. This church behind me is the St. Thomas Anglican Church of Shanty Bay, and we believe it is the oldest Protestant church in what was called Upper Canada, now Ontario. It's constructed of mud brick. They would have, right from this very ground, found the mud and mixed straw in with it and water and put it in molds of some sort, maybe 30-inch wide molds, making a mud brick that would be fairly soft. And then they'd run a course of it or two courses around the whole building, and they'd leave it a day or two until it dried, and then they would do another round until they built up the walls. And then they reinforced the ceiling with timber, and this tower would be made of timber, and the floor, of course, is made of timber. There would be one or two white families here in Shanty Bay, maybe not more than that, at that time when this was built. And there would be quite a few blacks between Shanty Bay and Barrie. And certainly when this church was built and the O'Brien House was built, a lot of the work was done by black labor. The people, the young men and older men from this area would come and work for the O'Briens and get paid for it. And they would have been instrumental in producing this church and the manse that was built at the time. O'Brien was a white man, and his wife Mary was kept a wonderful diary, and thank heavens she did, because a lot of the information we know about the early days here in Shanty Bay is from her diary. But they came here hoping to settle a third wave of blacks. There was two waves ahead of them, one 10 years ahead of them and one 3 years ahead of them, and that third wave in the 1830s did not materialize. Back in the 1820s, there were a number of petitions from blacks and people who thought they might speculate in land and sell the land to blacks. And they petitioned the Governor General in York to get whole townships or special deals on land here and there and the other place. And in 3 cases where there's been petitions for black settlement, the answer has always been, we've got it established in Oral, go to Oral. Well, if you want to have your own black settlement, we've already got one established there, you go to Oral and continue on that development. But there's no record of them actually coming, so that wave never really materialized.
Follow the drinking gourd. When the sun comes back and the first whale calls, follow the drinking gourd.
Follow the drinking gourd.
For the old man is awaiting for to carry you to freedom if you follow the drinking gourd.
Follow the drinking gourd.
The riverbank makes a very good road. The dead trees will show you the way. Left foot, peg foot, traveling on. Follow the drinking gourd.
Follow the drinking gourd.
The river ends between 2 hills. Follow the drinking gourd.
Follow the drinking gourd.
There's another river on the other side. Follow the drinking gourd.
Follow the drinking gourd.
When the great big river meets the little river, follow the drinking gourd.
Follow the drinking gourd.
For the old man is awaiting for to carry you to freedom. So, if you follow the drinking gourd.
Amen.
Follow the drinking gourd.
Absolutely. Here's what I understand the drinking gourd to be. You may or may not, there's various squashes or gourds, and there's one gourd that has a particularly tough skin. Well, it's really, really tough, almost like a coconut skin. And if you cut it in half, it forms a dipper. And by the way, you cut it in half, and or you put a hole in it and you put seeds in it, you can shake it and it becomes a percussion instrument. You cut it in half, it becomes a dipper. Those in Africa, here's how I understand it. Those in Africa, instead of looking in the north sky and seeing the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, they would say, there's the drinking gourd. And the drinking gourd points to what important star? The North Star. And if you're in southern United States under oppression, and the field songs of the time, the leader would shout out and you would respond if you were picking cotton. The field songs at the time would have secret codes in them. And he would say, remember the drinking gourd? Take a good sip of the drinking gourd. Feel that free water. Always follow the drinking gourd, which is pointing to the North Star. Go north, go north. This has been a wonderful day. It really has. So many people I could watch as I talked were listening and trying to take in absolutely everything. You could see there was a thirst there for an understanding of this rather unique and amazing and perhaps unknown or relatively unknown black settlement. And I could see as the day went on that they seemed to get into it and understand how much we appreciated the contribution the blacks made in this area. And that in a sense we regret that they're not here because they brought such wonderful culture. And I can't help stressing how wonderful it was to see all those faces singing with great joy in not only the African church, but in this wonderful historic church. This was a day to remember.